right, so story time. But this is not necessarily the thing that you wanted to see on a day in the life video, but you know what? Who cares? If you don't want this part, then you can just skip the video, but I hate doing this, but please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helped me a whole lot. I really dream about becoming big in the fitness industry. My dream is to be a sponsored athlete by Young LA and Rise Supplements. Excuse me, I just had my after class snack and probably a little bit gassy, but it's all good. But anyway, so yeah, my diabetes diagnosis. So let's start back before like it even happened. As a kid, I was, let's just say, a little bit on the chubbier side of things. I was not obese by any means, but I mean, I was short, small, but chubby, so I naturally just looked a little bit fluffier. And let's just say that it's been a running joke amongst some people who knew me, some kids who knew me, and it got to me. And then it didn't really bother me all that much in Nebraska. Actually, there was this one story that kind of sticks with me. This wasn't in Nebraska, this was in North Carolina. When I was in North Carolina, we just moved from 6th to 7th grade, or at least I did. My dad moved all of us to North Carolina because he got a job out there, right on the beach in Wilmington. It was like the prime location for us, if that makes any sense. So we moved there. I immediately have a hard time making friends because I already had like a low level of self-confidence to begin with. I was comfortable around those who knew me, but when it came to making new friends, meeting new people, I just didn't know what to do because I lived in Nebraska for 8 years of my life and I didn't know how to make new friends, or at least make a new impression on people. But anyway, I did, and I think I did a fairly good job for being new in a middle school, especially because we all know that middle school is absolutely it's an absolute train wreck for anybody. But I was still chubby when I was in 7th grade, but I wasn't as big because I was at the beach all day, most days, all of summer. So naturally, with the walking and the swimming, I lost a little bit of weight, but I was still on the chubbier side. Then in the cafeteria, you are offered like to pay money for, cookies, sodas, pizzas, that kind of stuff. So there was this one day where I went to pay for 2 cookies and a pizza, and the lady behind the counter was like, I think you're only supposed to eat 1 cookie or something like that. And everyone around me just kind of laughed, and then I kind of jokingly laughed along too, but in reality, it kind of messed me up, if I'm being honest. I'm gonna check to make sure this is still recording. It's still recording. We are good to go. Just had to double check, So anyway, then not too long after that, I think this was like right after 7th grade, I had a crush on this girl, and she was like fairly popular. Way out of my league, especially back then. You guys have seen photos of me like from what I posted on TikTok. I was always good looking, but I wasn't like super duper handsome. My mom thought I was, but outside of that. Anyway, so I asked her out to the dance, and she did not want to go out with me because she said she wanted a skinny guy, like a healthy guy to be with. That was the word she used, healthy. So one thing, I get annoyed when people call skinny people healthy, and you're gonna see in just a few minutes when I get to that part. So after that, this like the switch in my head like flipped, and I told myself that I was gonna cut out all the junk food. I was gonna start running or walking or doing whatever I could, cycling. I loved riding my bike when I was a kid, and I was like, I'm gonna up that up. I'm gonna up the ante. I'm going to push myself hard. I'm gonna get skinny. And for a while there, things were going good. Like, I was steadily losing weight. I was getting taller, so naturally I was shrinking. Well, I was going through like puberty at the time too, so that made things a little bit easier too, because you know, boys, when they get their puberty, their bodies go through this like awkward phase where they're like skinny and tall and they look like the Slender Man. I'm sitting in a forest as I'm saying that, but that's besides the point. So I checked back just to make sure. So then I started losing weight really, really fast all of a sudden. And I was like, hey, I mean, faster weight loss equals being skinnier faster. So, you know, like, it was bad. Like, I think I was like maybe in the 150s, 160s when I started seriously losing weight. And then I remember I stepped on a scale at school and I was 115. 115, and that was like in October of 2017. And I started this whole thing back in like August. So that's really fast weight loss for that short amount of time. And it got to the point where even my mom was like, Jackson, you need to eat more. Then, like, you're losing weight way too fast. And I was like, no, I'm happy with it. But I should have listened to her, because, you know, moms, they're always right about everything. My mom certainly is. She saw the warning signs and I was like, nah, it's okay. But then in November, I started to feel off, like, every single day, like constant headaches, always needed to drink, like rarely ever hungry. And for those of you who don't know, those are the early signs of someone who is going through diabetic ketoacidosis, or someone who's pre-diabetic. Happens to type 1s, can happen to type 2s. Like, your breath starts to take on this like sugary, fruity like smell. It smells a lot like nail polish. I can still like taste it, and it's not necessarily like the most appetizing thing to have in your mouth. I would also like have like brown stuff in my teeth, which I could only assume was like caramelized sugar that was left in my mouth. But I never wet the bed though, which is another sign of someone going through type 1 diabetes, because you're drinking so much water. And yeah, I'm dragging this out way too long. So December 7th was my little sister Annabelle's birthday, and that day I didn't even eat cake, which is weird because I was always a cake fanatic. Even now I eat like half the cake when it's my birthday. Like, even as a health conscious fitness geek, like, I eat the whole thing. Like, I don't care. Like, I didn't have any of the calzone that my mom made. I didn't have any cake. I only drank tea. And then the next day I stayed home from school because I was like really bad headache, really dizzy. I thought I was just going down with a cold, in all honesty. And I guess that's what mom thought too, because I was given some saltines, some 7-Up, which, looking back, is definitely not a good thing to give someone who's in ketoacidosis. The thing you should give to someone in ketoacidosis is a trip to the hospital. But that's what my mom did the next evening when I was still feeling under the weather, under the blanket, like pounding headache, the worst headache I ever had. And then that night, I tripped down the stairs. And my mom was like, yeah, you need to go. My mom walked me up to my room, helped me up to my room. She put on a beanie for me, put on my shoes, and kind of put on all my clothes and walked me to the car, held my shoulder, like rubbed my shoulder when I was in the passenger seat with her. There was a moth. And she drove me to urgent care, where they then diagnosed me with, well, they had me urgent care, then they put me in the ER. And then that's when they found out my blood sugar was in, I think it was either the high 400s, mid 500s, somewhere around that range. Not the worst, because I remember my cousin Hannah, like, I think my mom told me that she was like 600 something when she was diagnosed. Some people are like in the 900s. milligrams per deciliter, if you guys don't know what blood glucose, the equation is. But yeah, I was in a coma for the entire night, and the next morning I had no idea where I was. All I remember was that I was excited that the hospital had a PlayStation. So I played a lot of Crash Bandicoot in the hospital, but I had no idea what was going on. They also told me I had kidney stones, but it's because my kidneys and my entire like urinary system was like so swelled up from like lack of drinking water that like things were like not doing so good. My kidneys were about to fail. Like I didn't have any kidney stones, my kidneys were in trouble. So they immediately got me on fluids after they diagnosed me with diabetes. And after that, things were going normal. Still a little bit of rough stuff when I was out of the hospital, but none that I couldn't fix. But at that point, the kidney stones terrified me more than the diabetes. But I had no idea what was going on. My mom pretty much took care of everything and taught me everything I know now. I have found some stuff out on my own, but everything that I know about diabetes now really came from my mom, because my mom paid enough attention to care about me when I was going through that shit. And it still to this day is one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And that happened when I was 13 and right before we moved to Illinois. That was still in North Carolina. And I had to move to Illinois, newly diabetic, still super skinny. That's another thing. When I was skinny, the bullying just got worse. So it wasn't about being skinny. It wasn't about being fat. Like, I don't know, like, people will just judge you for just existing sometimes. But the people who judge you are really just projecting insecurities on their own insecurities onto you because they're weak. Okay? They're weak. And people who do that need help themselves. There's many factors that could attribute to why they're behaving like that. For example, like maybe abusive parents, abusive friends, bad friends, any sort of struggle in their life, they could be projecting onto you. So bullies are bullies. I hate bullying. I can't stand it, but they got their own shit to deal with. But if they project that onto other people, they're weak. I'm sorry. This got really deep, but the point is, guys, I may be a fitness channel, but I'm also a diabetic channel. I have type 1 diabetes. If any of you guys have type 1 diabetes out there, I would love nothing more than to be able to help you guys out. If you guys have any questions or comments for me, please just let me know and I'll do my best to answer them right away, and I'll back it up with scientific evidence too. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what I want all my advice to be as a result of: science-based evidence, whether it be in the weight room or with diabetes. And that's the story of my diabetes diagnosis, and this is my first ever YouTube video. I will go to bed here pretty soon because I want to get up early tomorrow and then do all this shit all over again, except I have work at 11:30. So yeah, this won't be the official end of the video. I'll say one last closing remark before I go to bed, but thank you guys for listening to my story, and I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my walk now. Thank you.